Welcome to the Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm John Briones. And the Foundation has set up a COVID relief fund in order to support thousands of union performers who are going through tough times. Since March, thanks to your donations, the Foundation has given over 6.3 million in emergency aid to more than 6,800 performers and their families. If you are a SAG-AFTRA member and need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. So thank you. Thank you for your support. Now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce these amazing humans, artists. And if you'll indulge me, I would like to start this intro in our language, Tagalog. Mga binibini at ginoo, mga kababayan, ikinararangal kong ipakilala sa inyong lahat ang magkakapatid na Basco. Dante Basco, Derek Basco, Dionysio Basco, Darion Basco, and the fabulous Filipino brothers.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, John.
Good to see you.
And SAG-AFTRA Foundation, thank you guys for having us. It's really our honor to be here.
I'm being loud because I'm very, very excited. I'm so honored that you guys asked me to do this for you.
That's Filipino. Filipinos are all loud.
Yes, we are. Look, I really enjoyed the movie. The heartfelt performances, wonderful storytelling by our first-time director,
yes, Dante.
Dante, and kudos to your DP, Andrea Walter.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
The story, it's funny. It has an abundance of heart. It's very American in its language, conversations, mannerisms, and food, but also very Filipino in its language, conversations, mannerisms, and foods.
Yeah,
it's a story that anyone can relate to. It's a piece of Americana, but the Filipino-ness of it cannot be denied. Sprinkled here and there are reminders of its Filipino identity. Was that an important element to show for you guys?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, as we co-wrote the film, me, Darion, Dion, and my sister Ariana, we're telling a story. Of course, we're Filipino American, and so I think you're right. I think it's definitely a piece of Americana because we're American. But as you kind of get older in this industry, and now that we're choosing to be a part of the storytelling process, not just as actors but as writers, directors, is going back to like really telling things that are personal to us, and we're undeniably Filipino, and so I think that has to be part of the fabric of this specific storytelling, and I'm happy that we were able to kind of like weave both sides together.
Absolutely. Go ahead, John.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean that what you said was super important to us in the writing, and it was super important to do a segment of it too in the Philippines, because as that's kind of new to us too as well, going back there and our kind of perspective of going back there and how America and the Philippines are totally connected in a way, not only in our families, but the countries as a whole. I mean, it just seems so, they're so connected. So it was supernatural, and I'm glad that came through in the film, you know?
It did, it absolutely did. My question, as actors, we're always told to create our own work, and you guys did that and more. You ran away with it, you showed 4 leading men, Filipino leading men, and each character so distinct from one another, well-developed characters, imperfect and sometimes bruised, which is something Hollywood is not consistently offering right now. I'm sure that was important to you guys.
That was very important for us, because we've been acting for over 35 years, and as you know, there was, especially back in the day, there wasn't a lot of roles written for Filipinos, so we played everything else, Mexican, Korean, Japanese, whatever ethnicity they wanted, we kind of fit in because we were Filipino. We had a little bit of blood everywhere. But now that we're older and we got a chance to tell our own stories, we definitely wanted to show that we are each individual people. And, you could have a leading man of Filipino descent that, runs the gamut. We're just human beings. We're just men, and women just trying to live our lives. And so we are the lead characters of our own story. Why can't we be the lead character of a movie, And we wanted to show each brother totally different from each other.
You totally did that, and I think it was so clever that you guys did that in the beginning, where you explained who the characters, who is who, like Derek's character as the it's so clear to that. I mean, you guys played to your own strength, and Derek, you're the eldest. Did you create all those things?
Well, I'm the kuya, and what's great is, when you work on a film, you're always trying to develop a history and a relationship with the other characters in the film. But being that we're family, we have a certain shorthand, and we know each other's strengths and weaknesses. So we try to play to each other's strengths. It's so funny in this industry, there's always usually like one ethnic role. And as we read it and as we get older, we know who's casting that more is, you know what I mean? And it's usually we're all fighting for that one role. But in this particular instance, we all get to flesh out our own characters, the flaws, the humanity of it all, the lengths that we go to for our family, and that's one thing that I really connected with my character is like the things that I would do for my family, and I think that love shows through each of our characters in different ways, which is really amazing. And I really thank Dante because, acting, it's a very personal thing. And sometimes I think like, am I going too big? Is this the right tone? And he would push me in areas that I'd be like, okay. And I had to totally trust him, which was nice to do and have that give and play. And even if the other brothers weren't working, I would ask Darion, what do you think? Dion, did that comedic moment work? And so it was just overall a great experience working on these characters and me being the kuya, And if you don't know, if you're not Filipino, kuya means big brother.
Right. I mean, Dante, you can speak to this too. That one of the real joys of writing the thing and coming up with the story we were going to tell was that we studied acting together intimately with each other for over 25 years. So we kind of know our strengths and weaknesses as actors. So when Dante and I were writing, we're like, okay, how are we going to create this, mold this character around Dion to showcase what we know, the genius that's inside him? How do we write this to show the genius that's inside Derek? I mean, that was kind of like the joy of what it was sitting down and writing, right, Don?
Yeah. So, John, you're an actor, and a lot of times as actors, we know we can do a lot of things, but what this town, offers you to play, a lot of times isn't to what the potential, what you can do. The key thing for me as a director here, and the fortunateness I had working with my brothers, is we have studied together in acting classes and drama, doing theater for over 20 years. We've actually all seen each other's, every single performance each brother has done in our lifetime, we've all seen. And we know exactly the ones that were the successes, the ones that were more, not failures, but weren't as strong as other things. And we know where their gold lies. And this town has been really fortunate for me for some of the roles I have gotten to play over my career. And these guys have all had great careers in their own right, but to be able to cater certain performances and certain characters that is really key for them to be the star of their own vignette and tell the story from their perspective, and really getting a chance to do that with having the history that we have together gave us a real good shortcut to try to find success for each brother in the stories. And then each story is actually based on true stories from our family's history and life. So that also added another layer for us to kind of bring into it.
That absolutely showed. You're talking about genius. That you're each other's genius. It's Dionysio. That cracked me up. That was it's so. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. So anyone who's
Well, I believe
It came at the right time.
Everybody's watched it so far,
Oh, is
right?
it?
So they watched
Everybody here, most of the people have watched it, I think.
Oh, good. That was genius. Was that all you, or was that improv, or was that directed by Dante?
I can't. Dante directed it, absolutely. You know,
I definitely directed, but it comes from some stuff he did in theater for years.
Yeah, I did a piece in a theater, and it just stayed with me. And I was like, I gotta put this on film somehow, some way. And I just adapted it to Filipino food. And I don't think you'll look at Filipino food ever the same.
No.
And it might have happened to me in real life, maybe once.
But directing was really fun. Pushing Dion and Crystal Kwan, who plays a scene with them, past places that they have gone and try to just really go crazy with it was really fun.
Yeah, I almost go, oh, is he going too far? No, he didn't. Good.
I've always gotten in trouble.
Push the boundaries all the time.
Dion has always gotten in trouble. He's always gotten in trouble at the dinner table for playing with his food. So it's a natural extension.
Oh, Dion. Okay, Dante, you've produced like 8 films, right? But what made you finally decide to go into directing, and specifically why this project?
Yeah, I think the process of the artist, especially in this town, is just a growing process. We really been in this industry, together for 35 years, and acting led into producing, led into Asian American. Producing the films that I've produced are all specifically Asian American and new Asian media kind of films. And then it just got to the point where, it's time for me to kind of not just support other great filmmakers that I loved working with, but to kind of throw my story into the hat. And I decided if I'm going to do something, which I urge always when I talk to young filmmakers out there, young writers, is write what you know. Write what you know. And what I know the most intimately in my life is my family, and specifically my brothers, and this journey that we've been through together. And it almost feels like when we were shooting it, everything that we've ever done in our life leading up to this point has led us up to kind of like making this movie. Every performance we've done, every family, all the good and the bad of the family ups and downs, we put into this movie. And even though it's the Fabulous Filipino Brothers, I don't know if we're not set out to make the definitive Filipino film or this film, but in some ways with our family, it's like the definitive kind of thing of like our family for the world to see.
Absolutely. But okay, the last movie you guys made was The Debut. And that was 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Why did it take so long to make another one?
Well, that film we didn't produce. We all were lucky to kind of be in. One of the things as I look back, it's just us growing up as filmmakers and making the transition from in front of the camera to now also adding, the roles of director, producer, writers. It just took the process that took for us. And I love being a part of this whole Asian media, this whole golden era of Asian media in Hollywood. Us as Asians in Hollywood are at the highest profile we've been in Hollywood since the birth of Hollywood. And certain steps like The Debut were like steps in that. And then now I think we're at a place where we can really open up and share all of our stories, whether it be Filipino, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Chinese, Southeast Asian. It's like now's the time for all of our stories to come into pop culture.
It was worth the wait, though. That was I can't say enough. You guys shot the film in your hometown of Pittsburgh, California, but you also shot some scenes in the Philippines, and I love the locations you guys chose. Tios Cruz and Solen Husef. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Solen Husef. Yes,
we're great in them. What was it like filming in the Philippines? And did you guys, the other brother, did you join Dante in the Philippines?
We did. Me and Dion went along, and it was and that's the stuff we shot first. So that was kind of nerve-wracking for him because it's his first film, and then he's in all the scenes that he's gonna have to be directing. So we knew we had to be there to
We didn't
support.
plan it like that, but that's what it worked out.
But that's what it turned out. So we were definitely there, and working with Andrea and our other producer Ron and me and Dion there. It was kind of like Dante was really trusting in that our voices. We could say stuff to Andrea during those times, and the working relationship was really good because he was really, I mean, it was a lot on his plate to start his directorial debut, and I'm starring in all these scenes, and I'm in a foreign country. You know, it was a lot. So I think it was great that we were there. Right,
yeah, but I heavily leaned on Andrea Walter as our VP for the vision of what was going on. We had a lot of meetings. I leaned on my brothers to help make sure my acting was in the right place and scope, and everything was working right. And then, of course, I leaned a lot on my producer, our executive producer, Ron Erickson, who's my partner in that sense, and really to kind of handle a lot of the producing things off my plate while I'm trying to focus on making this movie. But also, it was just very emotional to kind of go back to the Philippines. It was very emotional to shoot in our hometown of Pittsburgh, California. It was very emotional to go to the Philippines as Filipino Americans, to go back home and shoot with a whole crew of people, of John Briones, who's our Filipino producer, who I've worked with now a few times, and really connect with our people in that way. And the artists like Solen Youssef was one of the biggest stars in the Philippines, and to be accepted into the Filipino art scene was very emotional work on that. And then to go home to Pittsburgh, California, a place where we were born and raised, and my dad's and my mom's whole families are there, and our Filipino community. And it's really a love letter to Pittsburgh. It's really a love letter to the Filipino community. And then to have these people on the set, my parents, my uncles, my aunts, my extended uncle and aunts and cousins of Pittsburgh in the movie, around, showing up at the set on nights to just watch us work and be behind camera, to just trip out, because these are people, as you know, we all go to Hollywood, and then you have people at home that support your career for 30 plus years, and they're rooting for you, and they're watching all your TV shows and commercials and movies, and then to come home and for them to be a part of this and see us working and being a part of it, and them also working in with us in real life, it was also very emotional. So many days turning around, see my dad behind the camera with his brother watching me, Uncle Duke watching me, and he's going, I can't believe this is really happening. And part of me was like, I can't believe this is really happening too. So it was a very cathartic and very emotional experience to shoot the whole thing.
Yeah, I always say, when I get the chance, I'm going to hire everyone I know.
Yeah.
All my friends, I'm going to put them in a movie or a TV show. And you guys do that. That must have been amazing, to be just surrounded by people who love you. I talk about a safe space. That is the safest space you can create, right?
I think it's definitely safe. It's also nerve-wracking because these are people you love and you want to do right by them. I want to do right by my brothers, my family, my sister. I mean, you're making this very personal story, and you want to do right by them. And then you go home to a community that supports you, and you want to do right by them. And of course, it's called the Fabulous Filipino Brothers. So a lot of Filipinos are waiting and rallying around the movie, and you want to do right by all of them also. So it is great and it is safe, but it is a little nerve-wracking because you don't want to disappoint people. But I just hope people watch the film and enjoy it, and that's the best I can hope for.
And we get it. We get it. One of my favorite scenes in the movie was the blind date. These two characters meeting each other. We see that they brought their baggage with them. I'm curious. We know your baggage, Darion, but I'm curious, why did you choose that particular baggage for her? Why it's very effective, but I'm just curious, why that?
Well, this storyline is very personal because it's kind of, in a way, it's inspired by our family history. So I don't know. That's why, I mean, it's funny because that you say that, because when we first we wrote it, and then I thought, well, this is kind of like a big stretch. Like, can I play this? is this real enough? I mean, it's funny, but is it going to connect enough? And when we met with Lisa Lapira, who's great in the movie, who plays opposite me, plays that role, she was like, I mean, I like it, but this is a lot. Like, is this, how do I play that role? And when we told her that it's based on, it's based on a real thing, which is what kind of the beginnings of how our family started. She was like, oh, I could play it then. If that's what you're telling me, and then when we did the scene, and then when we worked together, we were locked in right away. And I think Dante felt too, like, oh, this is going to work. Like this is going to work. So it's such a big place, like you say, to start the vignette from, like, these two characters with their baggage, like you say. And so it was like, it was a challenge to get there and to make it believable that this could happen. But knowing that the story was coming from a place of reality in our history, it helped. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand it must have been a little difficult to play that because it's such a personal thing.
It was. And I mean, even now when I look at it but it is, I mean, I don't want to say it's true to history. It is I mean, it's drama. It's based on a true story. It's based on what it is. So I just wanted to play it in a way that, like Dante said, does right by my father, does right by my mother. We wanted to write things that you know, we wanted to show respect and love and show that great love could come out of crazy situations, and that, you know, great love conquers these obstacles that are huge, and we only know that because we're the products of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I love that the movie started with the family scene, and you know,
yeah.
And with a long shot of Duke walking around the house saying hi to everyone. But it also, you ended the film the same way with the family scene. So you like bookended it, and it's just surrounded. You just surrounded the whole thing with love, basically, but you guys are very prominent in it because it is your story, but it's so clear that the women are ever present and ever watching you, judging you, and keeping things together. And for you to even have the voiceover being your sister,
Yes.
it's basically saying, no, we run this.
Yeah.
We let them do their thing, but once the mess happens, we're here to pick it up. Your mom, when she delivered her line, there was such a gravity to it when she said, and I know her because I've worked with her. She's such a
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, she's such a beautiful human being, but there is that bite to her. She's like gauging you at the same time.
She is really our mother. I mean, it's a joy to work with your parents on screen, and it was. I mean, that was a very emotional part of the movie is casting our real family members and our parents playing our parents. You know, when our dad yells at us and he has tears in his eyes. I mean, I really felt that. And my mom, you know, telling us what you know, she's been telling us what to do our whole lives. So it was very meta for her to do that. But shout out to all the strong women in our lives. You know, we couldn't be here or do the movie, or, you know, women have the biggest influences in our lives. You know, our mother took us to Hollywood with $100 and a dream 35 years ago in a van, and 35 years later, for us to put her on screen with us to play our mother. I mean, it just comes full circle, and, you know, she deserved it.
And I mean, the movie is called The Fabulous Filipino Brothers, but, you know, the reality is the strength of the women in our lives, in Filipino families, in particular our Filipino family. We grew up with my dad and his brothers, and we're named, the characters in the movie are named after my dad and his brothers, Deo, Duke, Danny Boy, and David. But we even grew up with my grandmother and my aunts and my mom sitting at the kitchen table as all the guys and the boys in the house are doing their thing. But we always knew who actually ran the family at all times. It's that circle of women at the kitchen table that are cooking and talking, and let the men think that we are running things, but actually they're actually running. And that's just how our Filipino family has worked our whole life. And I really wanted to kind of show that in the movie, the irony of, it's about the brothers, but guess what? The women are the women that run it and save us time and time again. But they just let us, they let us do what we.
That's the sequel. I think that's the sequel, John, because the women's characters didn't get fleshed out because they are really much more stronger in real life, and I think if we could flesh their stories out, my sister Ariana would love to do it. My mom would love to do it. And like Dion said, we do owe our whole careers to my mom for risking a dream on us, $100 driving down to Los Angeles and getting us started in the business. And back in the days, there was no auditioning, she had to drive to LA to pick up sides, drive back to where we were, drive back for an audition, drive back. I mean, she must have drove back and forth to Los Angeles from Cerritos 4 or 5 times a day with us in a van. Just because someone else had an audition or something. So without our mother, we wouldn't be here,
Wow, that's love.
Yes.
That is love. I've noticed one thing that it tickles me every time I remember it. It's like you guys put, what's the word I'm looking for? Signs in your movie, and one of them is your Lola, and she looked like Mother Mary with a veil over her. It's like the voice of reason. What was that supposed to be? That the voice of reason, the voice of conscience.
Well, we grew up with both of our grandparents in our household at one point in our lives, so we
Living
knew
with
that
us,
presence had to be there in this film, And one of my mother's grandmother, she's very religious and always wears a veil around the house. She lives in the Philippines now, and she was always quietly judging us as we were kids running around. And so we needed to have that presence of the matriarch of the family, just to be there. And then sometimes you forget that she's there, and then as real people, as kids, and then you mess up, and then you just see the side eye, and that's all it takes, and then you're getting in trouble. But no, she was great. She was she was not our real Lola, but we casted her. She's a friend of our friend's mother, and she was great.
I love that.
First time.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's her first time acting as well.
I love that after the food flirting.
Yeah.
So when they followed you, she was there sitting.
Yes.
I love that. That was wonderful, fantastic. You guys, a family of actors. You're like the Von Trapp, and your family members are branching out and also becoming, following in your footsteps. Has that always been encouraged in your family? Because coming from a Filipino family, it was not really, because you have to be a doctor or an engineer. Even when my kids started doing this, I wanted to say, please don't do that, but that would have been right?
It wasn't done purposely. So growing up, our mother, she gave us all the things that she wished she had. So she gave us like voice lessons, dance lessons. We were break dancers. We studied at the San Francisco Ballet Company.
Wow.
And she gave us all of this training that she wanted to always have. And then when I had children, I kind of did the same for my kids, not necessarily wanting them to go into the entertainment industry, but they probably, like your children, just fell in love with it and had a knack for it. You know what I mean? So now, now I'm encouraging it. Like my 10-year-old, she's 11 now. She's directed like her own like 10 little commercials, you know, and then my other daughter, she started a movie, they're working on music. So whatever we can help them, we all support them artistically, which is the opposite of most traditional Filipino families. You know, you either have to be a doctor or a nurse, but I don't know, it started from my mom. Like, we give credit to her, you know, she put us in the arts and we fell in love with it to our benefit or detriment, because, you know, the lifestyle of an artist isn't always so easy, but you have to love it, and we all love it. That's the one thing, is that we are constantly talking about film and what we can create next. So it's not like it's a burden, and it doesn't seem as if that it's a burden to our children either, or my children, you know, or my sister's children. They all love it too. But it wasn't planned, John. It's never planned.
Oh, by the way, shout out to your movie wife, Cheryl Tsai.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
She was great in it. Talk about strong characters, strong women. And Lisa Lapira, you guys cast this really well.
Well, we wanted to make sure that, you know, all the women were strong enough to play opposite us, and like, well, especially for me, to have a woman trust me, and I could trust her. And I worked with Crystal Kwan for years, and so I knew that she was the perfect woman to be in this scene with me, because we had performed it on stage before, and I was like, listen, let's just bounce off each other and go for it. And I think each brother and their lover or woman, they had to have that trust. You know, we had to have strong females that could go opposite of us and take us down. You know, I think Crystal steals the scene, and, you know, and I wrote it. So
she went for it. What was there a time that Dante goes,
yeah,
oh, that's too much, or did he just let you loose?
We did shoot more, and it was a little too much. Dante was like, we got to pull it back. I was like, no, let's push the envelope. He's like, dude, we gotta pull it back a little bit. So, you know, I had to trust him on that. But yeah.
And particularly with Cheryl Tsai and with Crystal Kwan, they're actors that grew up with us also, and we studied together. And so they're actors that we are very family oriented with, and we've seen a lot of their great performances, and they just, you know, both did really amazing performances, strong performances. So kudos to Cheryl and Crystal, and thank you guys for trusting me to direct this, because they've known me also for many years.
It showed the chemistry.
And of course, my
Ariana, yes. I mean,
who's known us our whole life and is amazing in the movie, and I can't wait for people to see the surprises of those things in the film also.
I have I think I have to ask this, you know, you guys being trailblazers in Filipino representation in Hollywood. I'm sure things have not been, you know, not always, you know. Can you guys share, because it's so nice to hear established actors talk about how it was hard for them as well. So, you know, people who are starting out, that they can go, okay, I'm going to be okay. Do you guys have any battle scar stories that you guys can, you know, just to encourage people?
You know, one of my good friends, Jason Olazabal, told me, he said, you know, our 9-to-5 jobs is auditioning. When you get the sides, when you read the script and you work on it, that's our every day you're creating, you know, whatever it is, you're going to the gym. That's our 9-to-5. And then when you book the job, that's like the gift. That's the bonus, that you get to go and do it for a month, a day, you know, 3 months on location or whatever it is. And you really cherish those gifts, but to really cherish the journey of it, the fact that we get to audition for all these different characters and put your spin on it and find out how I connect with this person, and how am I going to tell this story, and what part of myself am I going to expose? That's I feel is the real joy. And if you can find the joy in that work of the daily auditioning, you'll eventually succeed, because I've been doing it for a long time, and it wasn't until recently that I finally became comfortable with it. You know what I mean? And accepted it, like, oh, this is my day job, and I love it, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, the thing about it, and I know there's a lot of actors watching right now, it's a very hard industry, and it's a very hard industry for all of us. Black, white, Asian, Latino, other, male, female. The reality is, you're feeling that no one's ever really seeing you. There's no real parts out there for you. Everything that comes in, and even things that you're close to, they go with something else and they feel like no one's really seeing you. And I think that's kind of the burden that we all have, is like, how do we show ourselves? How do we have the courage? First of all, it starts with you, the courage to show yourself, understanding that we've been in the industry for so long as Filipino actors, and the amount of Filipino roles there have been in Hollywood is, John, almost none, in our whole 30-year span. And the only way to win that, you find out, is you have to make people change their minds most of the time. Because my whole career has been about beating out white kids for white parts, or beating out African-American actors for African-American parts, or Latino parts. And part of that is like, there's a heartbreak because there's so many things you just feel like I don't belong in this industry. Hollywood doesn't want me here. There's no characters for me to play. And that can be very disheartening, because you go, I feel like I don't belong. But the power, and what Derek said too, when you start to learn what your job is to really show yourself and your craft. And, here we got to create something that was catered for us. And that rarely happens in this industry. We made it happen ourselves. Otherwise, we're out there trying to fit into these other stories that people have created. Great people have created. They just don't know you yet. They just don't know me yet. But the key to it is you. Like, we're all 1 million to one shot, 10 million to one shot. Doesn't matter who you are. But the key, you don't even get a ticket to the lottery unless you can show them you. And when you walk in the room and you can kind of reveal yourself in that character, the other ideas of what that character was sometimes fade away, because they see you as a character now. And these characters that weren't Filipino, all of a sudden in the moment are suddenly Filipino. And that was been the whole one thing that kind of has helped me personally get through the dark moments of feeling I don't belong here.
Beautiful. We got questions. I've been talking too much. All right. All right, here we go. I've noticed that you all have had your own directions in your career, but also you have overlapped each other in certain TV series appearances. Do you playfully compare each other's work? And have you ever had second thoughts about being cast as another Asian background? ?
I mean, we're definitely playful about each other.
We definitely compare each other. We're definitely competitive in a brotherly spirit. I mean, we always are. I mean, there's not many roles, so we're often going in for the same role. Like, it happens all the time. It has to, because there's not that much that they write for our casting, so we're in there all the time. But we've gotten comfortable with the fact that I know that my strength is this and your strength is that. So if someone gets it, it's okay. But we are definitely, when we see each other's performances, we'll not make remarks or like we're pretty, we say crazy things to each other.
We're brothers.
Love. I mean, it's brother. We have that.
You can't roll with the brothers. You can't go back and forth with the banter.
Exactly. Like we have a banter that is but it's healthy, but it's a banter with each other, and we do have that competitive spirit with each other.
Me and Dante just read for a role. And he was like, come over to help me. We'll record each other. And as we were reading it and we're rehearsing it, I had my take, he had his take. I shot mine first. And then when he shot his, I was like, oh my God, this guy is taking a lot of my stuff right now.
That's what good artists do. Good artists do.
I was like, this is not how he was rehearsing it. But okay. That's
how I felt, Dion, when you did the because Dion is on 000 too, and we all happened to be in Vegas at the time. We all shot this thing in a crazy. We got this audition last minute. We're all in Vegas and we're in the hotel room shooting it. And I shot mine first. Dion shot his first. Then I shot mine. And then I was like, hold up, I gotta shoot mine over now after you did your thing. And then he got it. He looked it, but I was like, this motherfucker. We're gonna go back and forth, shooting our stuff back and forth. I mean, it's gonna be like,
we push each other. It's great. I almost came home and re-recorded my audition. I was like, dang, Dante was killing it.
But as far as, what about playing other ethnicities? I mean, the thing is, when we first got into the industry back in the late 80s, early 90s, we would go to auditions And of course, when they were writing back then, it would be like general, the Asian friend, you know, the guy going in. And so, of course, in their eyes, they're looking for a Chinese or Japanese person. Like they're not. So when I would be in the waiting room, the other guys would be like, why did they call a Mexican dude in there? Like they didn't even know what Filipino was back then. I mean, this is pre-Pacquiao, pre a lot of things that they just, it was like a brown skinned Asian, like it doesn't compute in my head. So when we were, I mean, like Dante's first ever thing that he ever did was American Indian. The first thing you ever booked in the town, which wouldn't happen now, but back then we were grabbing onto straws and what we can play and what we can do and be flexible to what we can do. I mean,
and I think,
you know,
when we talk about ethnicity, it's kind of hard. The pendulum swings, you know, different ways, and we're at a place of a lot of definitely political correctness, and I think I want to be cautious of that too, because, you know, if we had to wait to play Filipinos in Hollywood, none of us would have a career, and we got to remember that, you know, although we have to be respectful to cultures, and there are certain things, and certain stories matter more than other stories, depending on the historical value of certain stories and what that character means in that particular story. But, you know, this is fiction. We are not shooting documentaries. This is not historical. I mean, when we're making movies, by and large, we're not making historical films. And so I think we need to come at it as filmmakers and as Hollywood with respect and be open to all the things, but also it gets sometimes, and you know, John the brothers know, it gets ridiculous. Like you have to be this particular person from this particular place, and you're like, hold up, how?
Right.
This is, you know,
like just with, unlike the Caucasian side, they're like, this is an Irish movie, or whatever, or Italian American movie, but there are Jewish people playing Italians. It's okay. You know what I mean? And it's broader for them when they go, oh, it's a Caucasian character. So there's many different types of Caucasians. You know what I mean? And we don't complain about that as long as you're respectful to the culture that you're playing. You know what I'm saying?
And it's per project, per role. It's all different. And we know when you read a project, if you feel comfortable playing that ethnicity for that project, it could be just for a comedy and the guys next door. It's just all, there's no blanket statement of this is how it always has to go. And there's certain things that are big historical characters. Like, I think that probably should be played really by someone from that region. So it's a case by case scenario. And I think it's dangerous to make a blanket statement, because again, this is all make believe, you guys. We're playing make believe, you know, to a degree.
Well, we're just trying to tell a story as truthfully as you can.
We are. But representation is important, and when there are parts written for a certain aspect of a person or race or gender or that doesn't get represented often, and there's an actor who can play that, and that actor's good, then that actor should be first on the list on whoever's creating it should consider. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's important as well, you know, to always remember.
It's great that you know, the Asian representation is happening, but and I'm very happy about that. But at the same time, it causes a little bit of a problem, in my opinion. Because some of the other people are being left behind, because the default right now is Japanese stories, Chinese stories, Korean stories, and there are no. There's no Filipino, and I hope movies like yours will encourage people to go, yeah, these are the other Asians.
Asians.
But by the way, that question was from David Rain. Thank you for that.
Thanks,
question.
David. Thank you.
We could. Apparently we're running out of time. We could talk for hours. This is great. But do we have time for one more question?
Let's do it.
Sure.
Do we have? Okay. Said, hello, I love the film. It's so much fun. I will never forget the Filipino food scene. I'm curious about the plans. I'm curious about the plans for distribution. Are you planning on running the festival circuit, or are you looking for theatrical release, pending how movie theaters will be running over the upcoming months?
Yes. We are premiering the film at South by Southwest March 16th, which is really exciting for us because it's one of the major film festivals in the country and in the world. And for my directorial debut to premiere at South by, and for all the brothers to star in a film together at South by is really, really exciting. And then how it works out, we are going to do some film festivals, and while our agencies and our people are shopping our distribution deal, but the hopes is definitely to have some kind of limited film release. And then, of course, depending on the deals that happen, you may see it on a streaming service or how the world opens up. But definitely, it'll be open for wider audiences as the year progresses.
Cool. All right, I think we need to wrap this up. If you guys let me, I would like to end it with lines from your movie. This is a story of four brothers. It's their quest to get it, keep it, and maintain it. That white picket fence thing, or in this case, brown bamboo fence. And then we end it with, I think it is, Filipinos are good at adapting. But now that I think about it, I think it's more about accepting. Bahala na, come what may. Welcome to the family. The Basco brothers, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much,
John.
John. Thank you so much.